How's it going, everyone? Shiny Plume here with a new deck profile. So this is an update to my Rikka Aroma deck that I've been playing a lot lately. It's been one of my favorite decks to play for a very long time, and with the new format, I decided to revamp the deck in a brand new way. So the idea behind this version of the deck has been to reduce the card count and increase the consistency and change around some of the staples so that it fits more into the meta. So we'll actually go over my deck choices and why I played what I played for the specific deck. If you like these deck profiles, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that. It really helps me out. And without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. So I'm going to start off with 3 copies of Rikka Petal. Rikka Petal is the card you want to see the most often. So what this card does is that during the main phase, you can take a Rikka monster and either add it to hand or send it to graveyard. And during your opponent's end phase, it comes back from the graveyard. So this is an infinitely recurring card that will always make sure you have follow-up. It's the best card to have in an open grind game because it keeps recurring all of your resources. Next, we got the other starter of the deck, 3 copies of Rosalina. Rosalina is used for the aroma part of the strategy. The aromas are there mostly to facilitate making a link 2, which will get you into Rikka Paddle. So Rosalina on summon summons a non-tuner aroma from the deck, and then it also in hand can discard itself, target an aroma monster you control, and you gain life points equal to half its attack. That effect doesn't really come up that often in this version of the deck. This is mostly to be a normal summon, to special summon the one Aromage Laurel, and then use both the Aromage Laurel and the Rosalina to make an Aromaseraphy Jasmine, and then Laurel gains 500 life points, and Jasmine searches you a monster. So that leads into the one Aromage Laurel. This is one of the cards in the deck that I would consider to be a brick, but it's not the worst to have in hand because there are ways to summon it from hand. You can also even normal summon it if you really need to. If you have like one of the extenders in your hand, it's not that bad. And if you're ahead on life points, you can just special summon it. So it's not the worst to have in your hand, but it's still not ideal. Then for the last, I guess, monster starter in this deck, played one Lone Fire Blossom. Lone Fire Blossom can get you any plant in the deck. It's really, really good. So I play this at 1 because while it can get you any plant in the deck, it also is susceptible to being ashed, impermed, or veilered. So it really is prone to being interrupted, and if it does get interrupted, then you're not really in a good spot. But it's okay. It's still one of the better starters in the deck anyway. Then that's it for like the main starters. So let's get into most of the extenders of the deck. So for the extenders, we got 3 Rikka Princess. This is probably the most important extender in the deck because it's a free special summon of a level 4. It locks you into plants while it's on the field, which is not a big deal. But in the hand or grave, it's also a monster negate by shuffling itself back and tributing a plant monster. So this is a fantastic card all around. The next extender is one Primula. Primula is usually cut in Sun Avalon versions of the deck, but in this version, it is a really good extender to have. You don't really want to see it in your hand. You mostly want to search it with a Rikka Glamour, but much like Laurel, having it in hand is not the worst. Next, we got one of the other very important extenders, Mudan the Rikka Fairy. I'm playing 3 copies of this one as well. You contribute a plant monster to special summon it, and then on summon it searches a Rikka spell or trap. In this version of the deck, this is much more of a mid-range version than a high combo deck. So it really it wants to more consistently do its end board of a very simple end board with a few interruptions rather than go 20 cards for this full combo. So Mudan is here for consistency. You really don't mind seeing this in your hand. Oftentimes, though, in games 2 and 3, I would find myself setting out one of them and then just playing 2 of it, which is perfectly fine. Then for the next extender, we got 2 copies of Snowdrop. In this version, 2 Snowdrop uh, is something that I really enjoy doing. Once again, in games 2 and 3, I find myself siding one out most of the time, but having 2 in the deck is always very useful because it's never really a terrible card to have in your hand. It's only terrible to have in your hand if it's the only plant monster that's in your entire hand. If you like have a plant monster, if you have two plant monsters and this in your hand, it's perfectly fine. And plus, it's also really easily searchable in this deck. Then we got one Lily Borea. I'm not playing a full Therion package in this deck. I'm just playing the one Borea because in the Aroma Lilith Rosalina line, this is the thing you're searching off of Jasmine as a free extender and a free summon, so that Jasmine contributed to summon a Rikka Petal. Then we got probably the only real true brick in the deck, but also just one of my favorite cards, Titanial Princess of Camellias. Now, if you want to play this deck, actually, you don't need to be playing this card at all. I just really like this card. If either player activates a card or effect that targets a card on the field, you can tribute a plant monster to negate the activation and destroy the card. It is not once per turn, not once per chain, because this card was made in 2008. It is my favorite card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And is part of the reason why I play the deck this way. But in some matchups, it actually is a very, very good card to stop targeting effects, because you'd be surprised how many targeting effects actually matter for your opponent, and how you can just easily turn all of them off. So that's it for the monsters, so let's get into the spell cards. So the first spell card I play is 3 of the field spell Rikka Con. Now, Rikka Con is not really, it's not a starter, it's an extender. So then why play 3 of it? Well, like I said before, this deck wants to go into grind games, and having 3 of this card is fantastic in grind games. So if you don't know what it does, which if you played against plants before, you probably know what this does. So if you control a Rikka monster, you can set one Rikka spell or trap directly from your deck. The more important effect is once per turn, if you attribute a plant monster you control to activate a Rikka card or effect, you contribute one face-up monster your opponent controls instead. So this is part of the reason why people really do not like this card, because it tributes their opponent's monsters for cost. It's really insane. I play 3 of it because I really, really want to see it in my hand, even if it's not a starter. Next, we got 3 Rikka Glamour. This is kind of both a starter and an extender. As a starter, it's not the best because it only searches one Rikka monster, but as an extender, you can tribute a plant monster to search a Rikka monster and one other plant monster, and they have to be the same level. So oftentimes, if you're not using it as a starter, you would get Primula and Princess, or you can get Snowdrop and one of the level 8s. And that's really what this is here for. And also, in conjunction with the field spell, you contribute one of your opponent's monsters instead. But keep in mind, if you do that, that does not actually trigger Primula, because Primula, you have to tribute a monster you control. But that's okay. As a starter, if you really need to, it could search your Rikka Petal. If you already have the field spell, you can search both of these, but you realistically only need one of them. So yeah, I played 3 of this because it's a card that is both a starter and an extender. It's probably one of the other best cards in this deck. Next, I play one copy of One for One. One for One just gets you to either Rikka Petal or Rosalina. It's a fantastic card to have in this deck, and since I'm not playing any Sun Avalon cards, this is one of the best starters. Next up, we got one card that I was actually very curious if it would work in this version of the deck, and it's one card that you really cannot play in the Sun Avalon version of this deck because you really need a much of your extra deck. But in this version, you don't need as much of your extra deck, so I played one copy of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is still a really broken card. Even with this card at 1, it's insane. Like, just banish 6 from your extra deck, and then excavate the top 6 cards and add one of those cards to your hand. Or you can do the same. If you banish 3, you can excavate 3. But you can't draw cards that turn you active this effect. That's fine. None of the Rikka cards draw you cards anyway. I'll get into some of the cards I would banish off of Prosperity once I get to the extra deck. But when I was playing this deck, uh, this card always was very fantastic to see. You never not wanted to see this card, even if it banished some of your even if it banished some of your cards in for your grind game. Most of the cards that you banish for it don't really contribute too much to the grind game, so it's not terrible to banish some cards for this effect, especially if you can see your starters, your hand traps, or your extenders that you really need to either start your combo or keep extending, or just make sure you have follow up. So that's it for the engine spells. And then the one engine trap I played was Rikka Tranquility. So Rikka Tranquility is better in this version than Rikka Sheet is. There were many deck profiles where I played both of them, and the main reason was I could not figure out which one of the two I actually liked better. And in this version, in 60 card plants or like most other plant builds that use Sun Avalon, you would use Rikka Sheet, hands down. In this version, since I'm going for more of a grindy game, there's not really many lines that OTK your opponent. The reason why I picked Tranquility was to help facilitate that grind game. So Tranquility is you can summon a Rikka monster from your graveyard, does not target. But if you tribute a plant monster, you can summon one Rikka monster and one other plant monster from your graveyard. The reasons why this is so good in this version is because, again, it gets you a lot of your recovery from grave. It gets a lot of your monsters that you might need for a grind, but also against like a lot of people like to side in back row hate, and Ricochet you really can't activate if your opponent activates a Lightning Storm or a Duster, or even an evenly matched. But Tranquility you can. And we'll get into one of the other interactions with this once we get to the extra deck as well. So that's it for the main deck engine. Now for the non-engine I played. For the non-engine, let's start with the hand traps. I played 3 Droll and 3 Fuelos. Now, this seems counterintuitive. Why would you play both Droll and Fuelos when Fulos draws your cards and Droll locks both you and your opponent out of adding cards from your deck to your hand? The realistic answer to that is because Droll and Lockbird is just insane this format. There's so many decks that lose to Droll and Lockbird, but those same decks also usually summon a lot from the deck or the extra deck, so you'll get a lot of cards out of them if you do either if you do this, you shut down their turn. If you do this, you draw a bunch of cards and maybe shut down their turn. So basically they both do the same thing. The only downside is of course Fuelos is not great going first. But honestly, I think that both are worth considering maining in this format. If not, if you can't really play the Fuelos, the Droll is good enough. But I think playing both in the main deck has its purposes, even if one basically locks you out of the other. Then for the other hand traps I played 2 Ghost Spell and 2 Ash. The reason I played 2 of these is because I really wanted to make the deck 42 cards, and there were some other cards that I really wanted to play as non-engine. And also, both of these are once per turn, and I think there's some merit to playing 2 of once per turn hand traps. I think that it's perfectly fine, but there's one other non-engine I play at 2. The reason why I'm playing Ash is fairly obvious. Ash is really good as a one-for-one hand trap into most things. It also really stops Fuelos. And then Ghost Spell, I think, is actually pretty decent this format, especially against decks like Memento that like to summon from grave, or Blue Eyes that likes to summon from grave. Basically, I'm using it as also kind of a local meta card, because a lot of decks that I play against at my local level uh, play decks that love to summon stuff from their graveyard. So Ghost Spell is really good at stopping that. I also really like Ghost Spell as for its versatility. It's one of the it's one of the hand traps that I'm most comfortable either using to stop my opponent's combo during their turn, or hold it during my turn. Hold it during my turn so that they stop them from playing on my turn. Like a good example is holding this for the effect of Malice Whitebinder to banish stuff from graveyard, so that you can go spell and stop it. It really stops a lot of things that you really don't expect. And then for the non-engine spells I played 1 talent because it's at 1 call by because it's at 1, and 2 droplet. So droplet is the one that you might be able to cut for a 3rd ash and 3rd bell, or you can do like cut the ashes for 1 bell and 1 droplet or whatever. But droplet was pretty good. I think it's important to have some non-targeting negation in the form of something like Droplet or Dark Ruler No More. Dark Ruler No More is a little less powerful, though. Droplet is just a solid card. to be playing into things like Detonator or the Mitsurugi cards, and has some other merits as well. Talent, even though it's at 1, I think is still very much worth playing. It's still my favorite staple, and Call by the Grave is for the hand traps, obviously. So that's it for the main deck, so let's get into the extra deck. We will start with the Link monsters. So 1 Drius and 1 Healer. These two never come up anymore. They realistically were there because of when I played Rose Lover in this deck. I could use the Rose Lover, link it off for Adrius, and then summon another one from hand. And then there's still the niche play of like summoning a Drius, attacking into a defense position monster, and then making a healer, going to main phase 2 and making a Link 2. So that's why I still keep these in the deck, but they are wholly unnecessary in this. Then we got 1 Dance Peon. If I was to cut the Drius and the healer, I might put this at 2. This can save a lot of games sometimes if you're really in a pinch. If you, what it does is on Link Summon, it activates the top 3 cards, and then you can special summon up to 2 plant monsters activated by the effect. It's pure luck-based part of the card, but the other effect is you can target a plant monster in your graveyard and make the monsters it points to the same level as that monster in grave. So usually I would target a Primula or a Princess and then make the monsters it points to level 4 so I can make a Strana. So this card has a lot of versatility in this deck anyway. Then we got 3 copies of Aromatherapy Jasmine. Now, like I was talking about with the Drius, having 3 of this card is not necessary either. You can easily play 2 of it, but it is necessary to have at least 1. There are times where 2 comes up. 3 rarely comes up, but it's still fine. So this is one of the most broken plant cards ever printed, obviously. If you're high life points, it and monsters with points you can't be destroyed by battle. If you gain life points, you can add a plant monster from your deck to your hand. And then if you tribute a monster it points to, does not have to be a plant monster. It could be something you take from your opponent with like a talents or something. You can special summon any plant monster from your deck in defense position. Yeah, I don't think I need to explain why these cards are so good in this deck. It's one of the best cards to summon ever. Then we got 1 copy of Rosemary. In this version of the deck, it's not really used at all to get to a Magnolia like it was in previous builds of this deck, because I'm not playing the Blend or the Blessed Winds, or any of the Winds cards. But this card's still very important because you can shoot a monster it points to and target any card on the field and banish it and then gain 1,000 life points. So this card is still really good at spot removing some cards, and that's why I still play it. Then we got 1 Bang Lancer. Bang Lancer is just a solid card as well. During the main phase, you can target a monster and bounce it back to the hand, and then you have to take life points equal to its attack. It's also can come back from the graveyard by banishing Link monsters. It's a solid card. But it's, again, not really easy to get into with it in this version of the deck, but it's still fine. Now for the XZs. For the XZs, we got the 3 of Rikka Queen Strena. Definitely the most important one. Requires 2 level 4 monsters, but this deck can level modulate very easily. So you can attach material, target any plant monster or Rikka card in your graveyard to add it back to your hand. And if this card is tribute, you can summon a plant XZs with a higher rank and attach this as material. It's unbelievably broken. I'm playing 3 in this deck because 3 does come up in insane grind games, but 2 is more than enough to get you there. But 3 is fine. Then we got, for the other XZs, we got 1 Kanzashi. Kanzashi is a way to protect your plant monsters, because if your plant monsters will be destroyed, you can tribute 1 plant monster from your hand or field instead, and it's a 2400 beat stick, and it also has a secondary effect where if a monster is tributed, you can detach a material and summon any monster from either graveyard, but its effects are negated. Most of the time, it'll come back from your graveyard because you're plant locked, but you know. Next is Oria the Sylvan High Arbiter. This card is extremely complicated. So what it does is you can has 2 effects. You can send a plant type monster from your field or hand to graveyard and look at the top cards equal to the level of the monster you sent, and then put them and rearrange them however you want. The second effect is you can detach a material, excavate the top 1, 2, or 3 cards. For every plant monster excavated, for every plant monster that goes to grave this way, you can non-targeting put a card from the field back into the hand. So basically, you rearrange the top of your deck, and then you can bounce up to 3 cards. It's fantastic. The only downside is not a quake effect, but it's fine. It's really good at spot removal when you're going second or in a grind to make sure that you can clear the board for damage. Next, we got one Teardrop of Rikka Queen. This is my favorite in the extra deck. You can attach a material from this card, target one monster on the field, and tribute it. It's a quick effect if you have a plant as one of the materials, which, let's be honest, you always will be. And then each time a monster is tributed during the turn, it gains 200 attack till the end of the turn, and that's each time. So if you tribute a bunch of monsters, this can accumulate up to like 3,600. Next, we got one Sacred Tree Beast. This is a negate depending on what it has material, which most of the time will be a monster. So it could be a monster negate, but it also, if it has a spell as material, it's a spell negate. If it has a trap as material, is a trap negate, but it's only during your opponent's turn. During your turn, if you activate a monster spell or trap, you can attach the corresponding type to this as material. So, for example, if you activate a spell card, you can attach a spell card to it as material, and so on. It's not really one I summon that often anymore. Out of all of these, the one I summon the most is the Teardrop, which made me consider maybe dropping one of these and playing a second Teardrop, which I've considered, and maybe I will in the future. So, as for some of the plays that are done with this, the Tranquility is really good if you have Strenna on the field, because let's say your opponent does like a Lightning Storm or an Evenly Matched. You can Tranquility tribute the Strenna, summon two plant monsters from your graveyard, and then on resolution, Strenna will summon like the Teardrop and then attach the Strenna as material. Then for specifically when I have Pot of Prosperity, it really depends on the matchup what cards I'm banishing from this. So the four main ones I'm banishing are these two, one Jasmine, and one Strenna. So these four are always going to get banished no matter what in terms of when I activate Prosperity, or even these three. If I'm only banishing three, these three are getting banished. If I'm banishing six, these four, and then uh, depending on the matchup, it will be I will choose the other two. It would most likely be this and this in most matchups, but there's some matchups where, say, the Kanzashi protection effect would come up, so I would banish this instead. So it really depends on the matchup, but for the most part, these three are for sure getting banished off of a prosperity. All right, now for the side deck that I played. I was mostly experimenting stuff with this side deck. This is the part of the deck that could change the most. So first one is Rikka Flurries. Rikka Flurries is a card that I'm always back and forth on, but this card is really good at outing usually unoutable monsters like Raid Raptors or just monsters that are unaffected by card effects. Because if you tribute a plant, if you tribute a Rikka monster, you make your opponent tribute one monster they control. And if they only control one monster, guess what? It gets tributed, even if it's unaffected by card effects. So this card is really good in that regard. So this card really goes into decks where towers are a big problem that I can't tribute. So I make my opponent tribute them instead. Then for the other side cards, I play one Duster, two Lightning Storm, because respect the back row, lest you lose to it. Two Dark Ruler. This is mostly a local meta card. Once again, Dark Ruler is really good against a lot of decks that I go against at my locals. Three Triple Tap Thrust. Thrust is a fantastic card to get you into going second, especially. We can get you to your Lightning Storms or your Dark Ruler or your Duster. Going first, it's not that great with the way I built this side, and we'll get into how I'm going to change the side after I get into all the cards I played. Next, we got three Typhoon. Typhoon was a card I was experimenting with because in my mind, what this card does, it targets one face-up spell trap on the field and destroy it. And if your opponent controls two or more spells and traps and you control none, you can activate it straight from your hand. So the reason I chose this was I mostly picked this card to mostly go against Blue Eyes because Blue Eyes sets up a True Light and its field spell Mausoleum, and both are very juicy targets for a Typhoon. So if both of them are on the field, you can just activate the Typhoon straight from your hand and then pop, say, the True Light and clear their entire board. Of course, you can also like do against Ryzeal if they If they have cross on the field and they set a couple cards, you can just Typhoon snipe their cross, and suddenly they don't have their negate anymore. So those are the main theories behind why I chose to play this card. Also, it is technically a thrust target. You can set it directly from your deck, so it's not bad going second either. Usually, it interrupts a lot more than you would think. That's easily the most cuttable card in the entire side deck. The next one is 3 Polynosis. 3 Polynosis? Polynosis is essentially Solemn Judgment, but instead of paying half your life points, you tribute a plant monster. Now, normally, that sounds bad because, oh, that's a 2-for-1. Not if you use Strenna as the monster you tribute, because after you use Strenna, guess what? You can summon another plant Xyz. Also, sometimes my end board ends on some monsters that don't do anything anyway, so it's better to just have them there and then tribute them for a Polynosis negate. And plus, I wanted to play Solemn Judgment in this deck, but I actually think that the paying half your life points to activate it comes up a lot more than you think it would, especially in this format where Solemn Judgment only sometimes ends your opponent's turn. It doesn't always. And it also is usually the card that would be activated if your opponent activates like a Dust or a Lightning Storm. So yeah, those are the main reasons I really didn't. So I thought that paying half of my life points to activate a Judgment when sometimes it just wouldn't do much, then your opponent has to commit less to their board to OTK you. So I think that paying half of your life points is actually a really sometimes a steep cost for Solemn Judgment. So Polynosis is much less for plants specifically. So quickly going over what I would take out of the side deck, most likely would be the Typhoons. As for what I would put in instead, I was thinking maybe Dimensional Barrier, Different Dimension Ground, and Rivalry of Warlords. These three. Uh, Mostly for if Memento gets extremely popular, these two cards would be very good against them. And then Dimensional Barrier is just a really good card in general. So these three are like the main three I'm considering putting into the side deck. But for now, that is it for an update to my Rikka Aroma deck. I really enjoyed putting this version of the deck together because it was much, much different than what I was used to. I'm used to having more cards in this deck than 42. This ended up being a 42 card deck, and I think this version really, really captured what I wanted to do in this format. So, what did you guys think of this deck? Do you think this is an interesting version of the deck? Do you guys want to see a follow-up video where I go over combos with this deck, and so you can really see this deck in action? Please let me know in the comments. But for now, during the end phase, Petal grows back. Thank you all for watching. Peace.